welcome. We are here for Ashley's Heart Song. This is the place where we get out of the stress and back into our body, our life, and our business. This is where changes take place, shifts take place, transformation can take place here. If you are not happy with where you are, then today you are in the exact right place, because my special guest today is going to help us reclaim our identity. I love Shawnte Kinney so much. She comes with a smile and a heart of gold. And by the end of this conversation that we have, y'all are going to be as in love with her as I am. So Shawnte, welcome to my show.
Well, thank you for having me. You are so sweet. You are so sweet. You know, it will be that the moment we get started, I don't know if y'all can hear the ambulance and the fire trucks out here, but they done started acting a fool. That's all right. They've been silent all day.
Cannot hear it at all.
Okay, good.
That's the beautiful thing about Zoom. They just quiet everything in the background.
Good. I'm happy about that. All right, let's get started. It is a pleasure to be here with you. I'm gonna try not to act too goofy.
Thank you. Oh no, please act goofy. Please act goofy. I need that in my life, Shawnte.
I can't help it. It's in the genes.
Love, love, love it. If you all are joining us live today, we are so grateful that you are with us. Thank you for being with us live. And then if you're watching the replay, welcome. You found us just in time.
Yes.
Splendid conversation with Shawnte. I'd like to read just a little bit about Shawnte, introduce you to her professionally. Shawnte Kinney is the editor of NexLevel Magazine, a digital magazine that equips women with actionable tools they can use to transform their lives. Successfully, she shares the real life stories of women who have successfully managed challenging situations to inspire and encourage other women as they find balance inside their chaos. I think that is just the coolest way to word that, because, you know, chaos exists for some people, right? When we see that we can choose to live in chaos sometimes, but finding balance inside that and being able to lift ourselves out, that's powerful, Shawnte, powerful work. She enjoys teaching about the life of Christ, exercising and connecting with people. Shawnte, is there anything else you'd love to add about that? That's you.
That's me. That's me. I have nothing else to add. I don't do good with talking about myself like that, or even hearing people talk about me like that. I'll be like, oh Lord, is that me?
Yes, it's you. Yes, it's you. So before I ask you a question about yourself rising out, okay, what I'd love to do is, you have told a lot of stories and shared a lot of stories of other people finding themselves in challenging situations and lifting themselves out. So if you would share with us, if you can, share with us one that is like top of mind, one that's just present in your heart today that you want to share that might help those that are listening in.
Okay. Somebody just asked me this question on Saturday when I was being interviewed. So it just so happens I have the answer right on top of my brain. I had the pleasure of interviewing this young lady named Levita Johnson. She had been in and out of relationships her entire life, and had actually been engaged quite a few times. And what she was telling me, she had been consistently changing herself to adapt to all the different men in her life and doing things to make them happy. She had breast reduction, she had lipo, all kinds of things to satisfy the men, old and younger, in her life. And so she had lost herself in the midst of that entire process. And she got to the point, she had never been married. She had like 3 failed engagements. And she got to the point where she finally said, okay, it's not the men, it has to be me. And she was raised in the church, but because of what she was chasing and what she was after, using her body and different things to connect, she had lost her relationship with God. And so she went on this journey. God had literally told her, if you will trust me and connect with me first, seek me first, I'll give you the desires of your heart. And so for 2 years, she stopped everything. and she committed herself to God, and she began to work on herself. She worked on her issues and began to really find herself and find her love and connection with God. And in the middle of that, and it actually happened during COVID, she had actually been knowing the man. They had been working together for years. God literally revealed to her who her husband was, and they met and they got engaged, and their relationship was actually able to build during COVID, and they ended up getting married. And she came on and she shared her story, and it really just inspired that one has really stuck out to me because I actually know them. And so I see them all the time, and the love and the commitment that they have for one another. Both of them are godly aligned, and they are so serious about teaching Christ and being in their authentic self. And it inspires me like never before, because one of the things she said was in finding God, she was able to really find herself and become the woman that she actually wanted to be, because God had her preparing even to be a wife, because she had to come to some truths with herself. She wasn't ready to be a wife, even though she thought she was ready, and learn what love was. And she had to learn how to love herself before she could love anybody else. So that was one of my absolute favorite stories, although I have a whole lot, but that was one of my favorites that has really stayed with me because it resembles me in so many ways. But yeah, that's one of the ones that stayed
I was
with
just about to ask that. Does it mean so much to you because it resembles you? It mirrors anything?
Well, I actually got married at 19. I was married for a very long time, but getting married, I didn't know me. You know, I was just telling somebody this. Me and my husband were two broken individuals coming together, trying to heal one another or create something in that broken state. And after 20 something odd years together, he walked in and said that he just didn't want to be married anymore. And I grew up in the shadow of him. I grew up in that relationship. I adjusted myself to fit him as well as everybody else in my life. It's something that I started doing at a very young age. Didn't even realize I was doing it. I stepped into that role. I often tell people I became a chameleon. Whatever anybody needed, work, church, home, you know, my nieces and nephews, my mom, my husband, anybody on the street, whatever anybody needed me to be, I became so that I could serve them. And I never saw me. I never took the time to care about myself. I never took the time to deal with any of my issues. I never took the time to seek God on my behalf. I went to God on everybody else's behalf. So it's a little different, but only in the sense of now that I know who I am, and now that I know God, and I found myself through God in the same respect. And God just reminds me, just like I told her to wait and she trusted me, you do the same and I'll do the same for you. So as I'm in this single state, I know what God is capable of. So it gives me hope, and it encourages me and inspires me. You know what? I'm on the right path. So just keep it moving. So that's
beautiful. So was it that experience that launched you into reclaiming your own identity? What woke you up?
It wasn't so much that experience. In 2014, my husband, that was a year of loss. We had not ever experienced loss at all. In January, he lost his stepmother. No, in January, he lost his best friend. Then in March, he lost his stepmother. In April, he lost his favorite aunt. And then in September, his mom died suddenly. So it was a year of loss for us. And in 2015, he was working to try, we both were working to try to deal with that loss, because they were close to the both of us. It touched the both of us. And, you know, just being real, that loss made evident cracks in our foundation. We had a foundation, but it made cracks in us and in our foundation. So dealing with that grief was really challenging. In 2015, it really challenged our relationship because there was a lot of other things that were going on, and it challenged me to start looking at myself. And at the end of 2015, when I woke up one morning and I looked in the mirror, and I was just disgusted with what I saw. I was disgusted with me. I had no balance. My life literally was in chaos. I was the puppet on a stick. Wherever anybody, whatever anybody needed, or however anybody was, that's go over here, Shawnte, go over here, Shawnte. I had no control and no balance in my emotions, in my mindset. Spiritually, I had no balance. Financially, I had no balance. I was just giving. There was no balance. And every day, what I felt was contingent upon how the important people around me, what they were feeling. So if I woke up in a good mood, but they decided that they wanted to be in a bad and crazy mood, it changed my mood. And so there was no balance. There was nothing. And our life was chaotic. And the sad part about it is when I looked at my life, and then I looked around at everybody else around me, all of their lives were chaos. So everybody was comfortable in the chaos, and nobody was trying to challenge, okay, hey, we need to do something about this. And so when I woke up at the very end, in December of 2015, I will never, ever, ever forget it. And God was like, what do you see? And it was disgusting. My skin was bad. I was extremely overweight. Everything, every post or everything that I had set up in my life to keep me good had basically betrayed me, had become a prison for me. My life, literally, even my spirituality, my relationship with God, my relationship with my family, it had become a prison, because although I loved all of these folks, I loved God, I resented everybody because I wasn't happy with myself. And God just said, now it's time for us to do something. I had come, as I often say, I had come to the end of me, and now it was time to step into Him. And so in 2016, I decided, I don't care what happens. I don't care about nobody else. I am going to get healthy, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I'm going to start working on me, because it does no good. I will not be that one. In the African-American community, I've noticed that essential person, I call her that essential woman, that's, that takes care of everything. She's not just in the African-American community, but she's everywhere, even grandma, just that one that everybody needs. She's also the one that always dies first, the one whose life is never fulfilled because she's pouring out to everybody else and nobody's pouring into her. She isn't the lead role in her life. She's the lead role in everybody else's life, and everybody else is playing a supporting role in their own life, and she's taking a backseat in her own life. And so I was like, it stops. And so I started that process. Me and God, we started it in 2016. And while I'm in my chaos, my husband is in his chaos. And he just responded to his in a totally different way than I responded to mine. I went in, he went out. And so he decided, he walked in on the June, it was a Sunday, and he said, you know what? You don't make me happy no more. You kept me from everything I've ever wanted. I don't want to be married no more. I'm out. I'm done. And I was like, excuse me? What? What you say? I was like, yeah, it was one of those things that you see on TV. I started living a real life television show because I didn't see it coming. We were that couple, and I was in it. I was 100% in it, come hell or high water. I took my vows very seriously. And no matter how unhappy I was, before we had even got to this point, I had told God, this is where I am, so I'm going to learn to be content here. I'll die right here. I'm going to learn to be content right here. I'm gonna stop complaining about wanting more, needing more, because I'm a seeker. And I'm always searching for something deeper. I'm searching for something more. And I knew my life was missing a lot of stuff, but I didn't know how to reconcile the two. And I told God, I was like, I'm gonna stop complaining. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm gonna sit right where you have placed me. And God, it was the moment I said that he was like, yeah, no, I've changed my mind. We're gonna do something else. But yeah, so when he said that, I'm not gonna lie, something broke for me because of all that we had been together for years, and we had always made a commitment no matter what. We riding this thing till the wheels fall off. And so for him to use those words, divorce, I'm a very loyal person, and words are power with me. And when he said those words, something really, I mean, I felt betrayed. I felt walked away from, I felt left. And I was just like, what? No, you don't, no. But throughout this process, I had to learn that this was the will of God. And it took me some time to accept that. It took me some time. There was a whole journey. There was a journey. I was like, okay, God, now we already been working on me getting healthy and stuff. Okay, what we doing now? Because at this time, we're controlling my eating. We're controlling all of my impulses. So, there are things that I did to cope with. I had coping skills to deal with life. But right now we're fasting from those. We're breaking down all of these walls. Every place that I normally would turn to make myself feel better, where years and years and years of that, God was like, oh no, we're taking all, we cutting all of that out. I'm like, you doing all of that, and now you're gonna drop this in the middle of it? Oh, you're not right, but okay. And God asked me a question. He asked me a question. He said, what do you want on the other side of this? I was laid out on the floor crying. A couple of days later, after he said this, I was laid out on the floor crying, and he walked in. I mean, God was like, how much longer are you gonna lay down there and cry? And well, since you're asking me, I'm assuming that you're ready for me to get up. He was like, yeah, can we do something now? And he said, Shawnte, what do you want on the other side of this? And I knew it immediately. There was never a doubt in my mind. I knew it immediately. And I said, I don't want to be bitter. I don't want to be a bitter woman. I was raised around bitter women. And when I say bitter, I mean, there was an event that happened in their life of some sort, and basically their life froze. They never moved past that event. They never got past the hurt, the disappointment, the rejection, whatever it is, the sickness, the loss. And I knew that I did not want to be that. I did not want to be that woman. And God said, okay. And he was like, I'm going to, every single day, I am going to feed you. I'm going to take you on this journey. And I want you to document the manna that I give you every day. I went and I bought a journal, and every day I wrote in that journal. I just poured it out, and God would send me stuff every day for what I needed. We did different tasks and just all sorts of stuff. And I kept it very detailed, a very detailed journal. I would cut out the quotes, I would cut out the scriptures, and I kept them. And I just poured myself out on the pages of this journal every single day, because I did not know how to walk through the pain that I was in. And I couldn't find a book to teach me how to walk through that pain, walk through the other side. And so the only person that I successfully knew who knew how to live through pain and walk through hell was Christ. And so I said yes. And we did it. We did it. And here I am, emerged on the other side.
Mm-hmm. It's so beautiful, Shawnte. Beautiful story, because don't we as human beings get hooked up on those compulsions that you spoke about in order to make us feel better? We overeat, we binge eat, we grocery shop, fill up credit cards, whatever it is, right? Find a relationship that is not very healthy. We do whatever we can to cover up that pain. But the thing that's so sad about that pathway is that we lose ourselves even more. Whereas
And
it was so powerful to be able to say, okay, and you were obedient.
Well, I didn't have any other choice. I had nothing. I had nothing. nothing. I had nobody who had went through a breakup, who had lost weight, who had found balance. Not a pastor, not a best friend. I mean, nobody. I had no other choice. So it was either you get all in with God or you're gonna sink, because I mean, and I had a lot of stuff. I mean, I had a lot of stuff that I was unpacking, a lot of things that didn't even relate to my husband. In this process, I was unpacking sexual abuse and the residual of that. So my eating habits, and y'all don't judge me what I'm about to say, and my addiction to masturbation, and all of those different things. That I saw her head kind of went like this. She was like, "Whoa!" But when I say that to people, everybody just be like, "Whoa!" But I was having to unpack all of that at the same time that I was walking through this heartache. God wouldn't let me go. He wouldn't let me go to my go-to things. I emotionally ate. That's the reason why I was overweight. My skin was looking bad and stuff. And he was like, "No, we're not doing this." Drinking. I had a drinking problem. We're not doing this. All of your coping skills, we're cutting them all out, and you're going to trust me. What I want you to eat is, I want you to eat the word. I want you to eat me. I want you to, I became obsessed with God in my own way, because I wanted to know him. I wanted to know me. I wanted to feel better. And in the middle of this, I didn't realize that, one, all of these coping mechanisms that I had been putting in place for years, and that had been, we had been partners. I mean, these were my companions. We were ace. I considered them friends. They had been betraying me. You pay a price. You don't realize it, but you pay a price for this stuff. And it was when I woke up that I realized the price that I had paid. Just being honest, it's all girls here, being honest, adjusting to the sexual abuse and masturbating all the time, it put space and distance between me and my husband that I didn't realize for a very long time. All of this stuff has consequences. All the money that I spent overeating. I mean, I made Brahms so much money. They really should give me stock, because I made them rich. I'm serious. I made them rich. Twix should give me, they should just be pouring money into me, because I poured so much money into them. All of these habits, all of these things, all of these coping mechanisms, they were lying to me. They were lying to me. They made me feel good for a very small amount of time. And I kept having to go back, there was still a hole. I was living with a hole in my heart, and I had nothing else. So God told me that he could do it. And I believed him. I did. I drank the Kool-Aid. I believed God. And what I love is he kept his word. He did what masturbation couldn't do. He did what butter pecan ice cream couldn't do. He did what Brahms fries couldn't do. He did what chocolate couldn't do. He did what alcohol couldn't do. He did what my books couldn't do. Binge watching television couldn't do. He gave me back me. And the part of me that I had locked up and stopped listening to, she became free. And that hole, that emptiness, it's gone. It's gone, because I now know me. I now understand me. I now have control. I now have discipline. And it took a lot of work. It took a lot of tears. It took a lot of revelation. It took a lot of looking in the mirror. At this time, there was nobody else to take care of. God was like, "Hey, you've been taking care of everybody else your whole life. Now, all of that you've been pouring into everybody, it's time to pour into you." And everything, if the words work for them, they work for you. So now you got to start doing it. And so I had to go to my ex-husband, and I had to thank him. I did. I went to him and I thanked him. I was like, "I thank you for doing what I wouldn't have never done that. I would have never walked away from him. I would have never walked away from our marriage. It's not what I was taught. I'm a fighter. I wasn't taught to quit. I wouldn't have never preferred me over anybody else such that it would cause them pain. But he chose him. He did. He chose him, and he did something that was very hard and very selfish, but it released me. And I thank him for it. And at the same time, I had to ask his forgiveness because I put responsibility and obligations on him that was never his. They were never his. And so I found him lacking when he actually was not, but I was looking for stuff that he could not do. He couldn't do, and I didn't know it. Just like he was looking for stuff that I couldn't do. He hasn't gotten to that point yet where he sees life in that way, but I thank God that I'm finally there and I understand it. And so I had to tell him, hey, forgive me because it wasn't right. I didn't know. I needed you to heal the little girl that was hurt. And then I needed you to be who I needed you to be for the woman. But I didn't even know what it was that I needed because I didn't know me. I didn't know what I sounded like. I didn't know I didn't know my thoughts. I didn't know what I felt. I didn't know who I was. So how can I expect you? I didn't even love me. So how can I expect you to love me if I can't love myself? So, and it's nobody but God. It's nobody but God. God took me on that journey and he did it. And I love it. And that's what got me here.
Yeah. Sitting in the hot seat.
Yep, sitting in the hot seat.
Yeah. So people that follow me, they've had a history of eating issues, like you're saying, the Brahms was really something that just, it was that comforter for you. And as we're going through these healing journeys, we will continue to have that pattern of behavior, is what we call it in eating psychology. That pattern of behavior will pop up just because it's in your subconscious mind. Oh, when you feel this way, this is what we do, right? We go eat 10 bologna sandwiches, whatever it is. So your human mind being exactly what being made and created, just like everybody else's human mind, there were those patterns that you had that were stored in your subconscious mind. So when you would begin to feel a certain way, it was probably triggered. You probably had a thought of, ooh, I want some butter pecan ice cream, or right. So what steps did you go through to remind yourself that no, God's got this. I'm not to cover any of this pain up. What did you do in order to continue to stay true to the path that you were on?
One of the first things that one of the first steps I always talk about to take you to your next level is the step of awareness. And I had to become aware, and I always have to become aware consistently of a couple of things. Where am I right now? You want this. Where are you? What's causing? And so I question myself a lot. I talk to myself a lot, and I answer the questions that I say to myself a whole lot. People think I'm crazy, but I do. But where are you? Where are you in your emotions? Where are you? Where are you right now? And I answer that question. But before I could even get there, I had to, and I do this often, I remind myself of this often. These things, this overeating and stuff, I remind myself of how it betrayed me. I had to break the allegiance with the habit. Because as long as I'm faithful to it, it's going to continue to grow. And as long as I think that it loves me and it's taking care of me, I'm going to continue to come back to it. And so we first had to break the allegiance to it. And I broke that allegiance by realizing where it actually took me, and where if I stay in it, if I indulge in this, where it's going to take me. So in awareness, where are you, Shawnte? Well, I'm sitting right here and life is hard right now. My emotions are out of control, blah, blah, blah. Okay, where do you want to go? I want to get to the other side and I want to be stronger. Okay, will doing what you want to do, even though you can, because it's not the same control, but even though you can, will that take you where you want to go? Or will that take you further? Will it take you away? I always ask myself, well, I ask God, am I making it easy for you to help me, or am I making it hard for you? Am I moving things? Am I moving more and more towards the enemy? Or am I moving more and more towards you? And because some of the things that I'll do, and I have to catch myself because I am a self-sabotager. And I know this is why self-awareness is very important. And the things that we do is very important, becoming aware of those. Is this action helping me? Is the enemy like, I got this girl? Or do I make it hard for you to deliver me? Do I make it hard for you to fight for me? Because that's not my intent. I've broken my allegiance with them, and my allegiance is with you. And so that's one of the first things that I ask myself. Then I step into intentionality. What do you want? And that's always hard. What do you want? And understanding when you even get into mindfulness in this whole process, just because you're feeling it right now, don't mean that you really want, because I really don't want it. It just, as you just said, it's just so comfortable. And it's easy. It's just like that blanket. You just want to lay back in it. This is what I know. This is what I know. But how is it serving me? I always ask myself that. How does this serve me? Does this take me where I want to go? Or does this take me away from where I want to go? And one of the final things, although there's a lot of things that I practice, but the final thing, just to wrap it up, is I've learned to practice delayed gratification. And I have to remind myself of that. If I say no now, I can say yes to something else later. So, do you want this now, this temporary pleasure, Shawnte, or do you want that six-pack that you've been after, and loving how you look, how good you look in your clothes, and just being free from the weight and the guilt of what this is going to do? So I run through those checklists, and all of that teaches me consistency and accountability. I stay accountable to myself. I stay accountable to myself. But I also have goalposts set up. I have boundaries set up. So when I start to feel these different things, instead of running back to food, I start talking. So by the time you finish all of these type of conversations with yourself, you're like, man, forget it. I ain't going to get no ice cream. You know, it's just too much work. It's just too much. If we got to sit here and talk about all of this, yeah, forget it. Forget it. I'm gonna go read a book, or, I'm gonna go for a run. And so after I've done all of that, if I still desire it, then I'll go do it. Don't get me wrong, I'll go do it, but it doesn't have the control on me that it used to have. Now it's not filling a gap. It's just now, you know what? It's just a simple pleasure. And then I leave it alone. So I kind of run through all of those, and God is in the midst of all those, because that's who I'm having the conversation with. Hope that helps.
Oh, I love it. That is so great. Yes. I love. Yeah, one thing that we do is, or that I teach my clients to do, is to always ask, how are you going to feel after? So whether it's the food, if you can just pause and be in awareness, like you were saying, being aware you're in your body, be aware of where you are. And then how am I going to feel if I ingest this, or if I spend this money, or if I, say these words to this person? How am I going to feel after? And is that right there in alignment with the song of my heart? If it's in alignment with the song of your heart, you got the green light. But if it is not in alignment, then it's a no. It's a no. Yeah. But when you feel all that yucky, slimy stuff, when you're thinking about how am I going to feel after I have this? Oh,
and then you have to, your accountability partners, you have to go and, make confession, because confession is good for your soul. You're like, man, I don't want to tell nobody nothing. So forget it. I'll tell y'all the thought, but I'm not supposed to tell y'all. But yeah, I had 3 Twix. I'm not about to do that. I'm over that. And then everybody's kind of looking at you like, okay. And my trainer, my trainer say, okay, if you want it, that's cool. We're going to work it off. You just know that you got to do some work, to burn those calories. I'm like, you know what? This is not worth all the extra squats. No, I'd rather have a fun Friday and not do not burn the extra calories. You are not worth my calories. And so that, I talk to food and different things like that. You're just not worth it. You're not worth my dollars. I'm not going to do it. You're not worth my calories. You're not worth my energy. I may need this sometime down the line. So the answer is no.
No, that's right. I love it. Yep. Talking to it. Love that. There's such power in the words though, because when you state it out loud, there is so much power. It's almost like you've got your superhero stance going, you know? And
Yeah.
when anytime we're in our own power that way, then it's easy to make those decisions.
It is. One of the things that God tells me often in the journey that I'm on and helping other women and sharing my story, he's like, we're breaking the silence, because it's the small things that sit in the subconscious of your mind that defeats you. And we don't like to I tell people often, pull it out of the subconscious, no matter how ugly it is. Whatever that thought is, whatever that feeling is, pull it out of the subconscious and give it a few minutes and talk with it. And the moment you start talking with it and talking back to it, the power is taken completely away from it. And now it's backing you. But the more you try to just leave it right there and try to, ignore it, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, more powerful. It's taking your power. That's some extra energy. Believe it or not, that's extra energy. You're getting all your energy back. The Bible talks about the things that God said that he would restore unto you. When you take the power away from things like this, that energy is being restored unto you. So now you're looking younger, you're feeling younger, you're literally aging backwards. A guy literally, my birthday was yesterday, and he asked me how old I was. I was like, I'm 45, baby. He was like, I wouldn't have put you past 20. He was exaggerating, but I often have people tell me that, and I give glory to God, because when I was in my 20s and I was in my 30s, I looked like I was in my 40s. Mm-hmm. So now I'm aging backwards, because now I've taken my power back, and God is restoring all of it back to me, because I don't give that stuff room to grow. I don't got the energy for it.
Right. Amen. Sucks the life right out of you.
It does.
That story back there. That's so fun. So did you want to talk a little bit about reclaiming identity? And do you want to touch on that real quick? I know we've talked about your story, but in this idea of reclaiming your identity, living in the now, being that present focus, is there anything that you want to share around that?
Well, I can share some of I always try to share some of the tools, some of the things that me and God did, because people always ask me about that. What are some of the things that you did? So I can't share them all, because I have a whole lot of them. But one of the tools that I use is, that God taught me, because I saw myself a certain way. I created this identity of Shawnte, and the identity was totally jacked up. And so anytime if somebody would say, oh, you're strong, I didn't see myself as strong. I saw myself as weak. That's who I created. I created who, when you've been sexually abused, there's the voice of your abuser that sits in your mind. And then you start telling yourself things. And I feel deep, I hold words and different things like that. And so anything negative, I would grab hold of negativity, but never grab hold of positive things about myself. So I couldn't hear anything positive that anybody said. But if you gave me anything negative, it was like I would just grab that and I would wrap it around me, and I would live with that. And so what me and God created, he told me, he was like, I want you to set aside who you've created. I want you to set that aside, and I want you to create a list, and you call it the me that God created. And I keep it in my phone. I keep it very close to me. And I've been building on this list since 2016. And what started to happen was when I first started creating it, God would tell me things about myself, and people would tell me, it was almost like I'm just to send it to you, and I would hear it, and he would tell me who I am. Shawnte, you are amazing. You are creative. You are strength. You are beloved. I learned his voice through the word of God. I learned what God sounded like. I learned his voice. And so I could hear his voice over other voices. And so once I learned what his voice sounded like when he sent the word to me, I'm like, okay, that's a you. So you're telling me who I am. So I have this list of who God created me to be. I'm a builder. I'm a speaker. I'm a writer. I am a paralegal. I'm all of these things. And so I have this list. And anytime I start to feel or live, if I think or I live or I start doing things that's contrary to who God said that I was, or even if somebody tries to hit me with something, or I have this emotion saying, oh, I'm not this, God always sends me back to this list. Go back to your list. Who did I say that you were? Who did I create you to be? So that has helped me reclaim who I am. And so I'm always asking myself, am I living in the identity that God said that I was? Or am I living me? Because the me that I created is just jacked up. I try to stay away from her as much as possible because she will lead you down a road of destruction. She is a very irresponsible person. She just, y'all just want to leave her alone. But I'm intentional about living who God said that I am. And so I keep that list. Another thing that we did in the reclaiming process is I had to learn how to reframe different stories, different things that I had told myself, different moments that I've had. We had to reframe the story and stop seeing myself as a victim in those stories and find the beauty, find the strength, find the story and the reason in all of those different stories. So now I look at things in a different viewpoint. And so that helped me see, you know what, that was going on. But girl, did you see your strength? I can see it now. And so I reframe it as opposed to saying, oh, you was just weak and you was pathetic, different things like that. Now I'm, oh, okay, when you went through all of this was God showing you this, and this was God doing this. So I had to learn how to reframe those stories. Another thing that I did to reclaim my identity, of course, and we've talked about, I had to redirect my self-talk. The way that I spoke to myself had to change. And so how did I do that? God started having me make videos to myself, and I write letters to myself. I pick up a phone and I record myself. I sit in the mirror. I practice talking to myself. I tell myself different things. I changed my self-talk because when I was younger, I would sit in the mirror, but I would never look in the mirror, and I would just say such horrible things to myself. Wow. And I became so used to it, just, and I don't like saying this because people don't understand it, but I was basically cutting myself. I needed to bleed. I was cutting myself with my words and the way that I was treating myself. So I learned to redirect my self-talk. Another way that I reclaimed my identity, I had to change my environment. I did. I had to be intentional about changing my environment. Anything that was not anything or anybody, any place, I stopped going to different places because different places represented different things and they invoked different emotions, or they triggered me. And so I had to stop that. So I changed my environment. Then I challenged my thoughts. Challenge these thoughts about yourself. How real is that thought? And I always come back to who told you that? Who told you that? And when they said that, look at their life. So when I started challenging that, and then I started looking, I'm like, now why am I believing what these folks saying or listening to them? Do they not say what that Shawnte, come on. Come on, baby. We smarter than this. But seriously, it's funny, but that really made me begin to challenge a lot of stuff about myself, things that people said to me and that I believed about myself. I'm like, somebody who doesn't even care about their own self is telling me this about me. How much stock you putting into that, baby girl? So those are a few of the things that I did to reclaim who I reclaim who I was.
Every single one of them are so powerful. So powerful. Yes. Each one of them. Wow. Thank you for sharing that with everybody. Wow. That was like a full coaching session right there, y'all. That was awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So you have a magazine, NexLevel Magazine, and you would like to bring some awareness and a spotlight on it for a second before we head off. With the
So
audience?
NexLevel, the entire NexLevel org, even my show, NexLevel Conversations, NexLevel Magazine, the NexLevel You, NexLevel You, and the NexLevel You podcast, that's part of the coaching program. I just talk with women who have gone through exactly what I mean, because we all have stories. We're all on this journey. We're all on this journey, and we're all going the same way. Our roads are different, but we're all headed towards our better version, our highest version, our best version. And so I believe that testimonies and these type of stories and what you did, what women did, and the wisdom that comes out of these experiences are so beneficial. And they help inspire and encourage other women who are right there in line, right behind us. You know, when I love the Bible, so I always go back to a different Bible story. But when Ruth was gleaning in the fields, they would drop her seeds. They would leave enough for her. And that just isn't money or different things like that. I look at it in a lot of different ways. Those were things that she could pick up and substance that she could use to grow and become better. And so there are people in front, there are people in front of us, and there are people behind us. And I need your story and what you learned, what you used, the wisdom that came out of your experience. And the people behind me need my story and the wisdom that came out of mine. So I call them conversations from the other side, because that tunnel, that road is dark and it's hard. And sometimes you need somebody talking to you from the other side of it. And so that's what we do. We talk from the other side of it. I like sharing, I like talking with women, and I like learning their wisdom. I like research. So you don't have to go find the research. You don't have to go interview these people. I go interview all these people and I bring it to you. And that's what NexLevel Magazine is about. That's what NexLevel Conversations is about, to empower, educate, inspire, and equip women as they are in their journey. They hit their level of chaos. They hit their level of their whirlwind, whatever trouble, whatever situation they find themselves in. I want us to have that tool chest that, you know what, I'm gonna go pull this weapon right here out so that I can defeat this enemy of depression, this enemy of neglect, this enemy of rejection, this identity theft right here. I now know a tool to help me defeat that enemy, because that's the only way that we're going to make it to the other side. I want to see us grow. I want to see us. There's just so much more for us and so much more that we can do. And so I believe that women are the superheroes of this world, and God has given us life-bearing seeds and wisdom and all of that. And we are the voice. And so we have to change. We have to use our powers better than what we've been using them, instead of snaring and being deceitful and all of these different things and the tricks that the world is teaching us. We need to fight with the tools and the wisdom and the keys that God has given us. And I enjoy sharing the stories for people doing that. So I said a lot, but that's everything next level.
And your show is 7 p.m. Wednesdays Central Time?
Wednesdays Central Time.
Okay. Yes. On the Win-Win Women Network.
So we sometimes I bring other women in. A lot of times I teach just, I use all my experiences. Nothing is opinion based. Everything I try to do is based off of experience. I don't want any, this is, how has it helped you? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, how did this help you? What did you learn? If you haven't been through it, you can't, I'm just saying, you can't tell me, because you don't know how I feel. And we got to live every single day. If you have no clue of what I'm going through, What, okay, thank you. Thank you for that theory. We've had enough theories. I got enough folks who think they know best from me. I want somebody who has lived this thing, who has walked this thing out. So they know when I say, oh, it was tight, they know what that means. You know what I'm saying? So that's it.
Oh, thank you. Shawnte, thank you for being with us today.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Beautiful, beautiful conversation here. This is Ashley's Heart Song, and I am so grateful that you have been with us. We are going to head out now and speak with the live audience. So if you want to be a part of the live audience, then you need to catch the show live at 3 p.m. Central Time on Mondays, Ashley's Heart Song on the Win Win Women TV network. You can watch all the replays on YouTube and catch them there. And I look forward to seeing y'all week after next. Next week is Labor Day. Most likely there's not going to be a show. So the following Monday, I will be back here. All right. Much love and a big old hug. See you soon.